Some teams simply review the list of backlog items that the product owner nominated as the most valuable and highest priority to be addressed during the next sprint, and then use their subjective judgment and perhaps prior experience to determine how many of those items they'd be able to complete in the next sprint. This optional step addresses a very common situation where, first, the prior historically proven velocity of the team is not known, so committing to any volume of work over the next sprint without calculating the actual capacity of the development team would be nothing more than a guess. And second, the team isn't cross-functional and its capacity can't be treated as one large bucket to put the sprint backlog into. Individual developers would deal with specialization-based duties and therefore need to clearly indicate and commit to their available capacity to do this type of work over the upcoming sprint. I'd suggest to keep it simple until you've gotten to know the team better and perhaps determined a more optimal way that suits you and the team better than the process described below. Create a table or matrix of names of your team members who will be doing the work, developers and testers, clearly indicating their specialization or capability, and leaving some space next to them to fill in their capacity for the upcoming sprint. Then, unsurprisingly, ask the team members if they have any leave plans or perhaps some other responsibilities that would distract them from their core duties as a Scrum team member. Yes, we all know as Agile practitioners that any part-time allocation of developers to a Scrum team is highly undesirable or might even appear un-agile. But we also know that it's often the reality we have to deal with. So instead of being in a sulky denial of an Agile purist, recognize that this is a solid workaround and perhaps a bridging solution towards the state of increased agility. For each team member, write down the number of days that they expect to be able to contribute to this sprint. Having this capacity matrix at your disposal and transparently available to your whole Scrum team will make the rest of your planning process a lot more educated. Step number 4, optional as well. Establish a normalized estimation scale. For brand new Scrum teams that don't have a historical record of their velocity or story points estimation practice, and especially where capacity planning is required due to the lack of cross-functionality, it is a good idea to baseline and normalize the perception of what one story point means to everyone. While story points estimation system based on Fibonacci sequence of numbers is intended to serve as a relative abstraction layer from the world of absolute numbers, such as minutes, hours, and days, it is often a good idea to rig the system in favor of making it easier to adopt among traditional software development teams. A lot of traditional developers find it easier to estimate work effort in something more tangible like days. So in this optional approach that requires some suitability assessment from you as the facilitator, we will help the team drive clear parallels between the story points and calendar days. I suggest using a whiteboard to write the following in large block letters at the top of it. 1 story point equals 1 day of work for one developer. Explain who is classified as a developer if required. Reiterate that any work efforts that you'll be calculating should be considered as end-to-end, not just the coding part, but everything that it would take to turn a user story into a piece of valuable functionality that's integrated with the rest of the code and possibly deployed into the required environment. The extent of completion requirements for any piece of work should be clearly understood and documented by the whole team in the form of the definition of done.